He believed surviving the war would be the hardest part. Lying in a military hospital far from home, broken and bleeding, he thought the worst was over. But the moment he opened his eyes, he met the woman the world told him was his enemy. Before we begin, if stories like this matter to you, please consider subscribing to the channel. It's free, it helps us a lot. And now, let's begin. The explosion comes without warning. The ceiling collapses in a roar of fire and dust, metal screaming as the world turns white. A body is thrown across the room. Blood splashes against a wall already stained by war. And in the center of the chaos, Daniel Carter screams, not from pain, but from terror. "Get down!" someone shouts. Another blast shakes the hospital, windows shattering, alarms howling like wounded animals. Daniel tries to lift his head, but his body refuses. His legs are numb. His chest burns. His mouth fills with the taste of iron. "Don't move!" a medic yells. "Carter, stay with me!" Daniel blinks through smoke and fire. He can't feel his right arm. He can barely breathe. He thinks of one thing only. I survived the battlefields just to die here. Then he sees her. She shouldn't be there. She isn't wearing a uniform, no helmet, no weapon, just a thin Vietnamese woman frozen near the doorway, holding a bucket that spills dirty water across the floor. Her eyes meet his, and in that instant, something impossible happens. She runs toward him. "Hey!" a soldier shouts. "Get back! Who the hell are you?" She ignores him. Glass crunches under her bare sandals as she drops to her knees beside Daniel's gurney. "Please," she whispers, in broken English. "Please, stay." Her hands shake as she presses them against his bleeding chest. Daniel gasps. You shouldn't be here." Her voice is barely sound. "Neither should you." Another explosion rocks the building. A soldier grabs her arm. "Get her out of here!" "No," Daniel shouts, coughing blood. "Don't touch her!" Everyone freezes. The young American soldier, barely conscious, soaked in blood, is screaming for a woman who is supposed to be invisible. She looks at him, eyes shining with fear and something deeper. And in that moment, Daniel realizes the truth. Surviving the war was never going to be the hardest part. Hours earlier. The hospital smells like antiseptic, smoke, and despair. Lynn Nguyen moves quietly down the corridor, pushing her cart, eyes lowered. She has learned the rules. Do not speak unless spoken to. Do not look soldiers in the eye. Do not draw attention. She cleans blood that isn't hers. She washes floors that will be stained again before sunrise. She empties trash filled with bandages, bullets, and pieces of lives torn apart. To the soldiers, she is nothing. To the officers, she is a risk. To the war, she is expendable. A nurse passes her without looking. Two soldiers laugh loudly near the entrance. "She probably spies for the Viet Cong," one says. Lynn hears it. She always hears it. She keeps walking. Inside room 17, a new patient lies unconscious. Young, American, wrapped in bandages like a broken statue. His name is written on a clipboard. Daniel Carter. She pauses. She doesn't know why. Something about him feels heavy, important. She steps inside quietly and begins cleaning the corner of the room. Daniel groans softly. Lynn freezes. She turns slowly, heart pounding. His eyes flutter open, blue, confused, afraid. He stares at her like she's a ghost. Where am I?" Daniel whispers. She hesitates. English is dangerous. English draws attention. But she answers. "Hospital," she says gently. "You are safe." Daniel winces, trying to sit up. "Don't," Lynn says quickly, stepping closer. "Please." He looks at her, surprised. "You speak English?" "A little." "Are you a nurse?" She shakes her head. "Cleaner." Silence stretches between them. Then Daniel laughs weakly. "A cleaner," he repeats. "Figures." She frowns, unsure if she's insulted. He notices and shakes his head quickly. "No, I don't even know my own name right now." She looks at the clipboard. "Daniel," she says softly. "Your name is Daniel." Something in the way she says it makes his chest ache. "Thank you," he whispers. Footsteps approach. Lynn steps back immediately, eyes down. A doctor enters, followed by an officer. "Carter," the officer says sharply, "you're awake." Daniel nods slowly. The officer's gaze shifts to Lynn. "Why is she here?" "She is cleaning," Daniel says. The officer studies her, suspicion sharp as a blade. "Be careful," he says to Daniel. "People like her, you never know whose side they're on." Lynn lowers her head further. Daniel's jaw tightens. "Get some rest," the officer says. "We'll talk later." When they leave, the room feels colder. Daniel looks at Lynn. "I'm sorry," he says quietly. She shakes her head. "I am used to it." She turns to leave. "Wait," he says. She pauses. "Thank you for telling me my name." She looks back at him. "You will forget again," she says gently. "Pain does that." "And will you remind me?" Her lips press together. "I will," she says, "if I am allowed." Days pass. Daniel's injuries are severe. Shrapnel in his spine, broken ribs, a damaged lung. Some nights he screams, some nights he begs for water. And every time the nurses leave, Lynn stays. She wipes his forehead, adjusts his blanket, whispers words he doesn't understand. One night he wakes shaking violently. "Don't go!" he pleads, eyes wild. "I'm here," Lynn says, pressing her hand gently against his arm. "You shouldn't," he whispers. "They'll punish you." She looks at him calmly. They already do. He studies her face in the dim light. "How old are you?" 26. "I'm 23, he says. "My father thinks I'm a hero." She says nothing. "My father is a congressman," Daniel continues bitterly. "He thinks this war makes sense." Lynn finally looks at him. "And you?" he swallows. "I don't know anymore." Their eyes meet. Something dangerous begins to form in the silence. One afternoon, an intelligence officer enters the ward. He smiles too easily. "Daniel Carter," he says. "I hear you've made a friend." Daniel stiffens. "What do you mean?" The officer gestures toward Lynn, cleaning nearby. "Her," he says. "We've been watching her." Lynn's hands shake. "She's just a cleaner," Daniel snaps. The officer chuckles. "So they all say. We think she may be helping the Viet Cong." Daniel's blood runs cold. "That's insane." "Is it?" the officer replies smoothly. "If she is, and you protect her, that makes you complicit." Lynn looks at Daniel, fear naked in her eyes. The officer leans closer. "You'll tell us everything you know," he says. "Won't you, son?" Daniel looks at Lynn, then back at the officer. And in that moment, his life begins to truly fall apart. Daniel doesn't sleep that night. Every time his eyes close, he sees the intelligence officer's smile, not a smile of kindness, a smile of possession, like Daniel is a tool, like Lynn is a target, and worse, like Daniel has already been chosen. Morning arrives with the same stale air, the same distant thunder of helicopters, the same moans of men trying not to die. Lynn enters quietly, as she always does, but today she looks different. Her shoulders are tighter. Her gaze stays low. Her hands tremble as she sets fresh linens on the chair. Daniel watches her. "Lynn," he whispers. She freezes, then slowly turns. "Yes?" "They spoke to you, didn't they?" Her lips press together. "They speak to me every day," she says softly, trying to make it sound like nothing. "No," Daniel insists. "I mean, they threatened you." Lynn hesitates. The truth sits behind her eyes, like a storm she's trying to hold back. Then she nods once. "They asked me questions," she admits. "What questions?" "Who I know, where I go, who I talk to," she swallows. "They asked if I carry messages." Daniel's jaw clenches. "And what did you say?" "I said I clean," Lynn whispers. "I said I do not know war plans. I said, I am nobody." Daniel's chest tightens painfully. "You're not nobody," he says. Lynn doesn't look up. "Here, I am." He reaches for her hand, but stops halfway, like he's afraid even touching her will cause an alarm to go off. "Lynn," he says, voice raw, "if they hurt you because of me—" "They will hurt me even if I never met you," she interrupts gently. "But now it is worse." Daniel swallows hard. "Why didn't you stop coming, huh?" he asks. "If it's so dangerous, why are you still here?" Lynn finally looks at him, and her eyes are tired. Not sleepy tired, life-tired. "Because you looked at me like I was human," she says simply. "And I forgot what that felt like." Daniel's throat tightens. For a long moment, neither of them speaks. Then Lynn lowers her gaze again and resumes cleaning. But Daniel can't let it end there. "Tell me your story," he says quietly. Lynn's hands pause. "Why?" "Because I want to know you," Daniel answers. "Not what they say you are, not what the war calls you, you." Lynn hesitates like the truth is a dangerous weapon. Then she speaks. "My father," she begins, voice barely above a whisper, "was a teacher." Daniel listens, still as stone. "He taught children in our village. He believed learning could keep people safe." Her eyes soften with pain. "Then one day, men came. They said he helped the wrong side." Daniel's heart pounds. "Who?" he asks carefully. Lynn's mouth trembles. "I do not know," she whispers. "That is the point. In war, everyone wears masks. Everyone says they are protecting someone, but they hurt the same." She exhales shakily. "My father disappeared. My mother became sick. My brother left and never came back." She forces herself to keep speaking. "I came to this hospital because it was work, because it paid rice, because a cleaner is invisible." Daniel's voice breaks. "I'm sorry," he says. Lynn shakes her head. "Don't be," she whispers. "It is just life." Daniel stares at her, stunned by how calmly she carries a lifetime of suffering, and in that moment he realizes something about himself that terrifies him. He doesn't just want to protect her. He wants to belong to her world, the one where truth matters more than politics, the one where humanity is the only weapon left. That afternoon, Daniel's father calls. The phone is old, heavy, and handled by a nurse like it might explode. "Carter," she says sharply, "you have a call. It's your father." Daniel's stomach twists. He takes the receiver with his left hand. "Dad," he says quietly. A pause, then a familiar voice, calm and powerful, cuts through the line. "Daniel." His father's voice is polished like a press conference. "How are you feeling?" Congressman Carter asks. Daniel stares at the wall, eyes burning. "I'm alive," Daniel replies. "That's good," his father says. "Very good. The public is praying for you." Daniel's jaw tightens. "The public doesn't know me," he mutters. "Don't be bitter," his father says smoothly. "This is bigger than you." Daniel's fingers tighten around the receiver. "That's the problem," Daniel whispers. "It's always bigger than me. It's always bigger than the people who bleed." His father ignores the tone. "Listen," Congressman Carter continues. "I'm sending someone to speak with you. Intelligence. They need your cooperation." Daniel's blood runs cold. "I already met one of them," he says. "Good," his father replies. "Then you know the stakes. They suspect infiltration. They suspect Vietnamese staff are passing information." Daniel's mind flashes to Lynn's face, her fear, her quiet strength. He swallows hard. "Dad," he says, voice trembling, "not everyone here is an enemy." Silence. Then his father's voice turns sharp. "Daniel, don't be naive." Daniel closes his eyes. "I'm not naive," he says. "I'm awake." His father's tone becomes colder. "You're my son," he says. "You represent me. You represent this country. You don't get to wake up in a way that embarrasses us." Daniel's chest tightens. "Embarrasses you," he repeats softly. "That's what you're worried about." "Oh." "Watch your tone," his father snaps. Daniel's voice drops. "Do you know what it's like," he says, "to be in a room full of people who see you as a symbol, not a person?" His father exhales in impatience. "You're emotional," he says. You're injured. That makes you vulnerable to manipulation. Daniel's eyes burn. Maybe, he whispers, or maybe I'm finally seeing what you never wanted me to see. His father's voice becomes dangerously quiet. Daniel, he says, cooperate with intelligence. Keep your head down. Don't get involved with locals. Is that clear? Daniel's hands shake. He thinks of Lynn. He thinks of her saying, "A cleaner is invisible." He thinks of how she looked at him like he was worth saving. No, Daniel says. A pause. What did you say? His father asks, voice hard as steel. Daniel swallows. I said no, he repeats, firmer. I'm not going to accuse people because it's convenient. His father's breathing changes. You don't understand the consequences, he says. Daniel's eyes harden. I do, he whispers, and I'm choosing anyway. He hangs up. The nurse stares at him like he just committed a crime. Daniel's heart pounds violently because he knows it wasn't just a phone call. It was a line in the sand. That night, Lynn returns after her shift, as quietly as a shadow. Daniel is awake, staring at the ceiling. He hears her footsteps and turns his head. Lynn, he whispers. She approaches cautiously, eyes scanning the door. You should not speak my name, she murmurs. Daniel's throat tightens. I need to tell you something, he says. Lynn hesitates. What? My father called, Daniel says. He told me to cooperate with intelligence, to give them information, to stay away from locals. Lynn's face goes pale. And you? She asks. Daniel swallows. I said no. Lynn's eyes widen. Daniel, she begins, voice shaking. Why would you do that? Because it's wrong, Daniel replies. And because I don't want to be the reason they destroy you. Lynn's hands tremble. You don't understand, she whispers. They do not need a reason. Daniel reaches out, finally taking her hand. This time he doesn't stop. Her fingers are cold. Then I'll give them a reason to regret it, he says. Lynn stares at him like he's insane. You are a soldier, she whispers. You think you can fight this? Daniel's voice breaks. I don't know if I can, he admits. But I know I can't live with myself if I don't try. Lynn's eyes shimmer. Why? She asks. Why do you care? Daniel's chest tightens painfully. He doesn't have a neat answer. He just has the truth. Because when I was screaming in pain, he says softly, you were the only person who stayed. When I woke up, you reminded me my name. His voice shakes. And somehow, you made me remember I'm not just my father's son. Lynn's breath catches. Her lips part slightly like she wants to speak, but she's afraid words will ruin whatever this is. Daniel squeezes her hand. Tell me what they're doing to you, he whispers. Tell me everything. Lynn looks toward the door, then back at Daniel, and she whispers the words that change everything. They think I am a messenger, she says. Daniel's blood runs cold. A messenger for who, he asks. Lynn's throat moves as she swallows. They say, I bring information to the Viet Cong. Daniel's mind races. Do you? He asks carefully. Lynn's eyes fill with pain. No, she whispers. But I know someone who does. Daniel freezes. What? Lynn's voice trembles. My cousin, she admits. He is involved. Daniel's heart pounds harder. You knew, he whispers. Lynn shakes her head quickly. I did not know until recently, she says. He came to me. He begged for medicine. He begged for bandages. Tears form in her eyes. If I say no, he dies. If I say yes, they kill me. Daniel stares at her, stunned. This is bigger than suspicion. This is an impossible trap. And now he understands why she looks so tired, because she's been living with a gun to her head in every direction. Daniel's voice drops. Did you help him? He asks. Lynn's lips tremble. I gave him medicine, she whispers. Just once. Daniel's stomach turns. He wants to protect her, but he can't ignore what that means. He takes a slow breath. Lynn, he says gently, if they find out, they will, she whispers. They always do. Daniel's eyes burn with helpless anger. Then he hears footsteps outside the door, heavy, Deliberate. Lynn stiffens, fear flashing across her face. Daniel's heart slams in his chest. A knock, not polite. A command. The door opens. The intelligence officer steps in. Same easy smile, same calm eyes. But tonight, he isn't alone. 2 armed soldiers stand behind him. "Good evening," the officer says pleasantly. "Daniel Carter." Daniel's body tenses. "What do you want?" Daniel asks. The officer's gaze shifts, slowly on to Lynn. "And you," he says, voice smooth. "You're still here." Lynn lowers her head. The officer steps closer. "Daniel," he says softly, "we had a conversation, didn't we?" Daniel's jaw tightens. "Yes." "And I told you we were watching her," the officer continues. "And yet you keep her close." Daniel's blood runs cold. "She's doing her job," he snaps. The officer chuckles. "Is she?" he asks. "Or is she doing something else?" Lynn's hands tremble so badly the cloth in her grip nearly falls. Daniel's voice hardens. "Leave her alone." The officer smiles wider. "That's exactly what worries me," he says. Then he turns to the soldiers behind him. "Search her," he says calmly. "Now!" Lynn's head snaps up. "No," she whispers. Daniel's breath catches. "Stop!" Daniel shouts. "She didn't do anything!" One soldier grabs Lynn's arm. She flinches like she's been burned. Daniel tries to move or tries to sit up, but pain rips through his ribs, and he collapses back with a strangled gasp. "Don't touch her," he coughs. The officer watches, amused. "You're in no position to give orders," he says softly. "But I admire your loyalty." His eyes narrow. "Tell me, Daniel, what would your father say if he knew you were protecting a potential enemy?" Daniel's eyes burn. "I don't care what he thinks," Daniel spits. The officer's smile fades, replaced by something colder. "Oh," he whispers, "you will." The soldiers yank Lynn closer. They pat her pockets, search her clothing. She shakes, eyes wide with terror. Then one of them pulls something from her apron pocket. A folded piece of paper. Lynn freezes. Daniel's blood turns to ice. The officer takes the paper slowly, like he's savoring it. He unfolds it. His eyes scan the writing. Then he looks up, directly at Lynn. "Well," he says softly, voice dripping with satisfaction, "would you look at that?" Lynn's lips part in panic. "That is not—" she begins. The officer holds up the paper. "English," he says. "Coordinates." His gaze flicks to Daniel. "Now isn't that interesting?" Daniel's heart pounds violently. "Lynn," he whispers, horrified, "what is that?" Lynn's eyes fill with tears. "I did not write it," she whispers. "I swear." The officer laughs quietly. "Of course you didn't," he says. "You're just a cleaner, right?" Daniel's mind spins. He looks at Lynn. Her terror is real. Her confusion is real, and suddenly Daniel understands something even worse. This paper was planted, a setup, a trap designed to force his hand. The officer steps closer to Daniel's bed, lowering his voice like a friend. "You have a choice," he murmurs. "Tell me what you know about her. Tell me who she's working with. Give me names." Daniel's hands shake. He looks at Lynn. She stares back at him, pleading, terrified, but strangely trusting, like she believes he won't betray her. And that trust almost breaks him. The officer's voice softens again. "You're a Carter," he whispers. "Your future is waiting for you back home. Don't ruin it over a local girl." Daniel's jaw tightens. He takes a shaky breath. Then he does the one thing the officer didn't expect. He looks him in the eye and says, "I'll give you a name." The officer's smile returns, slow and victorious. "Yes," he murmurs. "Good boy." Daniel's heart pounds. He turns his head slightly, coughing, buying himself 1 second. Then he says the name clearly. "My father." The room goes still. The officer's smile falters. "What?" he asks. Daniel's voice is hoarse, but firm. "You want someone manipulating people? Someone using fear like a weapon? Someone who benefits from this war?" Daniel's eyes blaze. "Start with my father." The officer's face hardens instantly. "That's not funny," he snaps. Daniel doesn't blink. "It's not a joke," he whispers. "You want a traitor? Look in the mirror." The officer steps forward fast, anger flashing. "You're delirious," he hisses. "You think you can protect her by insulting me?" Daniel's breathing is ragged. "I think you can't stand losing control," Daniel replies. The officer's eyes narrow. He turns sharply to the soldiers. "Take her," he orders coldly. "Now." Lynn's breath catches. Daniel's heart drops. "No," Daniel shouts, trying to sit up again, pain tearing through him. "Please." Lynn looks at him. Her eyes are glassy with terror. But she forces herself to speak quietly to him. "Daniel," she whispers, voice breaking, "do not die for me." Daniel's eyes burn. "Lynn," he whispers, "I'm not dying for you." He swallows hard. "I'm finally living for something." They yank Lynn toward the door. Her fingers slip from Daniel's hand, and that moment, the severing of contact, feels like a gunshot. Daniel screams her name. "Lynn!" She disappears into the hallway. The door slams shut, and Daniel is left in the room, shaking, choking on helpless rage. The officer leans close, voice like venom. "This is what happens," he murmurs, "when you forget who you are." Then he turns and leaves. Daniel stares at the closed door. His chest rises and falls in broken gasps. Something inside him shifts, hardens. Because now it isn't just about love, it's about survival, and he knows with terrifying clarity. If he does nothing, Lynn won't come back. Daniel doesn't scream again. That's what scares him. The door is closed. The hallway is silent. Lynn is gone, and something inside him goes completely still. The pain in his chest fades into the background, replaced by a cold, sharp clarity. This is what they do, he thinks. They take people quietly, and if no one makes noise, they disappear. A nurse enters minutes later. She avoids his eyes. "Where is she?" Daniel asks, voice hoarse. The nurse hesitates. "I don't know," she lies. Daniel stares at her. "You do," he says calmly. Her hands tremble as she adjusts the IV. "You shouldn't ask questions," she whispers, "for your own good." Daniel exhales slowly. "Listen to me," he says. "If anything happens to her, it will not stay quiet." The nurse looks at him then, really looks at him. And for a brief moment, fear flickers across her face. She leans closer. "They took her to the lower wing," she murmurs. "Interrogation rooms." Daniel's blood turns to ice. "How long?" he asks. "I don't know," she says. "Sometimes people come back. Sometimes—" She stops herself. Daniel nods once. "Thank you," he says. She leaves quickly, like she's afraid the walls are listening. Daniel lies there, staring at the ceiling. His body is broken, his spine still weak, his ribs cracked, his lungs barely holding together. And yet his mind is sharper than it's ever been. They think I'm powerless, he realizes. That's their mistake. The intelligence officer's name is Richard Hale. Daniel learns that from a whisper passed by a medic who doesn't know he's being overheard. Richard Hale, mid-40s, charismatic, decorated, known for results, known for making problems disappear. Daniel repeats the name, silently. Richard Hale, the man who smiled while ordering Lynn taken away. The man who enjoys leverage. And Daniel knows something else now, too. Hale doesn't want information. He wants obedience. 2 hours pass, then 3. Daniel's heart pounds harder with every minute. He imagines Lynn alone in a room with no windows, harsh lights, questions designed to confuse, to trap. Say one wrong thing, and you become guilty. His fists clench weakly, then footsteps approach. The door opens. Richard Hale steps inside. Alone, same easy smile. "Well?" Hale says lightly. "You look like hell." Daniel meets his gaze. "Where is she?" he asks. Hale pulls a chair closer and sits, crossing his legs. "You're asking about the cleaner," he says. "Interesting how attached you've become." Daniel's jaw tightens. "Don't play games," Daniel snaps. "You planted that paper on her." Hale raises an eyebrow. That's a serious accusation. Daniel's voice is low, controlled. She didn't know what it was. She didn't write it. And you needed something to justify taking her. Hale studies him for a moment. Then he chuckles. You're smarter than I thought, he admits. That usually comes with experience. So, Daniel leans back slightly, breathing carefully. So what do you want? He asks. Hale's smile widens. Now we're talking. Hale leans forward. I want cooperation, he says. Full cooperation. From me, Daniel replies flatly. Yes, Hale says. From you. Daniel's laugh is short and bitter. You already have me in a bed, he says. What more do you want? Hale's eyes gleam. I want your voice, he says. Your name, your credibility. Daniel's stomach twists. You want me to accuse her, Daniel says. I want you to confirm suspicions, Hale corrects smoothly. That's very different. Daniel's eyes harden. And if I don't? Hale sighs softly, as if disappointed. Then she becomes an unfortunate casualty, he says. War is full of them. Daniel's breathing falters. You'll kill her, he whispers. Hale tilts his head. Execution is such an ugly word, he says calmly. Let's say she won't survive the questioning. Daniel's vision blurs with rage. You said you wanted intelligence, Daniel growls. This is just cruelty. Hale smiles thinly. Cruelty, he says, is inefficient. Fear, however, is extremely effective. Daniel closes his eyes for a second. When he opens them, something in his expression has changed. Let me see her, Daniel says quietly. Hale laughs. No. Let me talk to her, Daniel insists. Just once. Hale studies him. And why would I do that? Daniel swallows. Because if you want my cooperation, he says, you'll need proof that she's alive when I give it. Silence stretches. Hale taps his fingers on the chair, then he smiles again. You're negotiating, he says, amused, from a hospital bed. Daniel's voice doesn't waver. You want a confession, he says. You want something believable. If she dies before that, you get nothing. Hale considers him carefully. Finally, he stands. You're bold, he says. I like that. He steps toward the door. One conversation, he says over his shoulder, and you don't touch her. Daniel's chest tightens. Agreed, he says. The door opens. Hale gestures. Bring her. Lynn is barely recognizable. Her hair is disheveled, her face pale, her hands shaking violently. But she's alive. Daniel's breath catches painfully. Lynn, he whispers. Her eyes lift. For a moment, confusion clouds her face. Then she sees him, and something breaks. Daniel, she whispers, voice cracking. Hale stays near the door, watching like a predator. You have 5 minutes, Hale says. Make them count. He steps outside. The door closes. Silence. Lynn rushes to Daniel's side, grabbing his hand with both of hers. You should not have asked for me, she whispers urgently. They will punish you. Daniel squeezes her hand weakly. They already tried, he says. I'm still here. Her eyes fill with tears. They asked me questions, she says, voice trembling. They asked me about my cousin, about medicine, about messages I never carried. Daniel's heart pounds. What did you say? He asks. The truth, she whispers. And it was not enough? Daniel swallows hard. I need you to listen to me, he says, very carefully. Lynn nods. They're forcing me to cooperate, Daniel continues. They want me to confirm their suspicions, to give them a story they can use. Lynn's face goes white. No, she whispers. You cannot. Daniel's eyes soften. I don't want to, he says. But if I refuse completely, they'll kill you. Lynn shakes her head violently. Then let me die, she whispers. I will not let you destroy yourself. Daniel's voice breaks. You think this is about me, he says. Lynn, I already crossed the line the moment I spoke your name out loud. She grips his hand harder. They will ruin your life, she sobs. Your father is already ashamed of me, Daniel interrupts. That's not new. Lynn looks at him, torn. Then what are you saying, she whispers. Daniel takes a slow breath. I'm saying we give them something, he says, but not what they want. Her brows knit in confusion. They want a confession, Daniel explains. They want names, a network. Yes, Lynn whispers, and there is one. Daniel shakes his head. No, he says. There's a lie we can give them. Her eyes widen. A lie? She whispers. Daniel nods. A controlled one, he says. Something small, something harmless. Something that leads nowhere. Lynn's breathing quickens. They will check, she whispers. I know, Daniel replies. That's why it has to be believable. He pauses. Tell me about your cousin, he says gently. Lynn hesitates. He lives near the river, she says. He moves often. He meets people. Daniel nods. Does he trust you? He asks. Yes, she whispers. He thinks I am invisible. Daniel's heart aches. Then we use that, he says. Lynn shakes her head. That would betray him, she says. And if they catch him, they won't, Daniel says firmly, because we won't give them enough to find him. She looks at him desperately. They will keep pushing, she whispers. They do not stop. Daniel meets her gaze. Then I won't stop either, he says. Lynn's tears spill over. I never wanted this, she whispers. I only wanted to clean floors. Daniel squeezes her hand. And I only wanted to survive, he says softly. Funny how life doesn't care. Footsteps approach. Hale's voice echoes outside. Time's up. Lynn looks at Daniel, terrified. They will break you, she whispers. Daniel forces a small smile. They underestimate stubborn Americans, he says. The door opens. Hale steps in. Well, he asks. Daniel looks at Lynn, then back at Hale. I'll cooperate, Daniel says. Hale's eyes gleam. Good, he says. That wasn't so hard, was it? Daniel's voice is steady. But I speak alone, he adds, and she stays alive. Hale nods casually. Of course, he says. For now. Lynn's heart drops. Daniel looks at her. I'm sorry, he whispers. She shakes her head. I trust you, she whispers back. Hale gestures toward the door. Let's go, son, he says. Time to be useful. As Daniel is wheeled out, Lynn watches him disappear down the hallway. Her knees weaken. She presses her hand to her mouth, fighting a sob, because she knows one terrible truth now. They are both trapped. And the war has finally noticed them. Later that night, Daniel sits in a dim room with Hale, maps on the walls, files on the table. Tell me everything, Hale says calmly. Daniel exhales. He gives them a story, not the truth, not a lie big enough to destroy anyone, just enough to satisfy suspicion, just enough to buy time. Hale listens carefully, eyes sharp. Interesting, he says. Very interesting. He leans back. You know, he adds, I think you're falling in love. Daniel stiffens. That's irrelevant, he says. Hale smiles. On the contrary, he replies, it makes you predictable. Daniel meets his gaze. Or dangerous, he says quietly. Hale's smile fades for half a second. Then he laughs. We'll see, he says. Hours later, Daniel is returned to his room, exhausted, drained, but alive. Lynn is not there. Panic claws at his chest. Then the door opens slowly. Lynn steps inside. Unharmed, Daniel exhales a broken breath. She's alive, he whispers to himself. Lynn approaches. They released me, she whispers. For now. Daniel reaches for her hand again. They hold each other's gaze. No words. Just the understanding that something irreversible has happened. They are no longer victims. They are no longer invisible. They are a problem, and problems in war are eliminated. The next morning, Daniel wakes to the sound of boots, not normal boots, dress boots. Authority. Two men stand at the foot of his bed. One wears the familiar intelligence uniform. The other wears a tailored suit that looks wrong in a war hospital. Too clean, too expensive, too confident. Richard Hale steps in behind them, smiling like he's hosting a dinner party. Daniel Carter, Hale says pleasantly. You have visitors. Daniel's throat tightens. He recognizes the suited man instantly, not because he's famous, because Daniel has seen him in his father's living room, shaking hands, laughing over whiskey, talking about strategy like people aren't dying. Elliot Shaw, a political advisor, a fixer, a man who makes scandals disappear. Daniel's pulse spikes. "What is he doing here?" Daniel asks, voice rough. Shaw smiles politely, like they're at a fundraiser. "Daniel," Shaw says, stepping closer, "you've become quite the story back home." Daniel stares at him. "This is a hospital," Daniel snaps, "not a press office." Shaw's smile doesn't move. "Everything is a press office," Shaw replies softly. "If you're important enough." Daniel's jaw clenches. Hale watches with amusement. Shaw glances around the room, then lowers his voice as if offering comfort. "Your father is concerned," he says. "Not just for your health, for your mindset." Daniel's hands shake under the blanket. "My mindset," he repeats bitterly. Shaw nods. "He worries you've been influenced," he says, eyes flicking subtly toward the doorway, like he's referring to Lynn without saying her name. Daniel's stomach tightens. "I'm not influenced," Daniel says. "I'm awake." Shaw exhales as if Daniel is a disappointing child. "Awake," he repeats. "Daniel, you're young. You're traumatized. You're in pain. You don't get to make permanent decisions based on temporary feelings." Daniel's eyes harden. "Temporary feelings?" he whispers. "People are disappearing." Shaw lifts a hand calm. "War is messy," he says. "That's why men like your father exist, to keep it from becoming chaos." Daniel laughs. "Once." "Chaos?" Daniel says. "You call this control?" Shaw's gaze sharpens slightly. "We call this necessary," he says. Daniel looks at Hale. "And you're here," Daniel says, "to make sure my father's story stays clean." Hale grins. "I'm here to keep Americans alive," Hale replies. Daniel's voice drops. "No," Daniel says. "You're here to keep careers alive." For the first time, Shaw's smile thins. He leans closer. "Daniel," Shaw says quietly, "let's be practical. Your father's committee is pushing a major vote. Your survival has become symbolic. The public loves you." He pauses. "But the public will turn if the story changes." Daniel's heart pounds. "What story?" he asks. Shaw tilts his head. "The story where you are a brave American soldier," he says, "not a confused young man defending a suspected collaborator." Daniel's blood turns cold. "You're talking about Lynn," Daniel says. Shaw doesn't deny it. "You've been seen with her," Shaw says smoothly. "You've been heard defending her. You've been emotionally compromised." Daniel clenches his teeth. "She saved me," Daniel says. "She cared for me when nobody else stayed." Hale chuckles. "Romantic," he murmurs. Daniel ignores him. Shaw's voice becomes softer, almost sympathetic. "Daniel," he says, "do you want to go home?" Daniel hesitates. The question lands like a trap. Because, of course, he wants to go home. He wants sunlight without helicopters. He wants his own bed. He wants to breathe without blood in his throat. But he knows what Shaw means. Do you want to go home, or do you want to die here because you protected her? Daniel's gaze hardens. "Yes," he says, "I want to go home." Shaw nods, satisfied. "Good," he says. "Then cooperate. Give a statement. A clean one." Daniel's stomach twists. "You want me to accuse her," Daniel says. Shaw raises a hand. "We want you to clarify," he replies calmly. "Say you were mistaken. Say you were delirious. Say you don't know her." He smiles, friendly again. "Say you're grateful to the staff in general, but you cannot vouch for any particular local worker." Daniel's hands shake. "That's a death sentence," Daniel whispers. Shaw's eyes remain calm. "Daniel," he says, "it's not your job to save the world. It's your job to survive." Daniel's chest tightens. Hale leans in slightly. "And if you don't," Hale adds, "your father loses leverage, and you lose your future." Daniel's eyes burn. "You think my future matters more than her life," Daniel says. Shaw's voice lowers. I think your future matters more than your feelings, he replies. Daniel stares at both men. Then he whispers something that surprises even himself. I won't do it. Shaw's face tightens. Daniel? I said no, Daniel repeats, firm. Hale's smile fades. Shaw's polite tone disappears. Listen to me, Shaw says sharply. Your father has protected you your entire life. You have no idea what it costs him. Daniel's voice shakes with anger. And Lynn has survived her entire life with no protection at all, he says. And you want me to throw her away like trash. Hale exhales slowly, annoyed. Shaw looks at Hale. Hale looks back. A silent exchange. Then Hale nods once like a decision has been made. Shaw's voice becomes calm again. Too calm. Daniel, Shaw says, you're going to give a statement. One way or another. Daniel's heart pounds. I'm not a puppet, he says. Shaw's eyes narrow. No, he replies quietly. Oh, you're a Carter. Daniel's stomach drops, because he realizes what that means. Not freedom, ownership. Shaw steps back. Richard, he says to Hale, show him. Hale smiles again. He gestures to one of the men. A folder is placed on Daniel's bed. Daniel stares at it. What is that? He asks. Open it, Hale says. Daniel's fingers tremble as he opens the folder. Photographs, grainy, black and white. Lynn walking near the back entrance. Lynn speaking to someone in shadow. Lynn handing over something small, maybe medicine, maybe a note. Daniel's breath catches. His mind flashes to her confession. My cousin begged for medicine. But then Daniel sees the last photo. Lynn being pushed into the interrogation wing, and beside her, a soldier, an American soldier. The soldier's face is partially turned, wait up, but Daniel recognizes him. He feels nauseous. It's someone from Daniel's own unit, someone he trusted, someone who looks calm, like he's not escorting a suspect, like he's delivering a package. Daniel's voice breaks. What is this? He whispers. Hale leans in. This, Hale says softly, is your reality. Your cleaner is not as innocent as you want her to be. Daniel's breathing becomes ragged. No, he whispers. You don't know her. Hale's eyes gleam. Then prove it, Hale says. Give us the statement and we'll consider leniency. Daniel looks up, furious. You're using her as leverage, he says. Hale smiles. Of course I am, he replies. That's what leverage is. Shaw steps closer, voice low and deadly. Daniel, he says, you have 5 hours. After that, we tell the hospital command you were compromised. We tell the press you were unstable. We tell your father you chose a Vietnamese woman over your country. His gaze hardens. And we make sure she disappears. Daniel's heart pounds violently. Shaw pats the folder like it's a business contract. Be smart, he says. You'll thank us later. They leave. The room goes silent. Daniel lies there staring at the ceiling, shaking, not from pain. From the realization that the war inside the hospital is connected to the war back home, and his father's world is part of it. Lynn comes that evening, but she doesn't enter like she usually does. She pauses at the doorway, scanning the corridor, then slips inside quickly. Her face is pale. Her eyes are haunted. Daniel watches her and suddenly feels a desperate urge to memorize her, because he doesn't know if he'll ever see her again. Lynn, he whispers. She closes the door gently. I heard, she says softly. Daniel's throat tightens. Heard what? He asks. Lynn steps closer, voice shaking. They are saying you will make a statement, she whispers. They are saying you will blame me. Daniel's heart drops. No, he says quickly. No, I would never. Lynn's eyes fill with tears. You don't understand, she whispers. If you don't, they punish you. If you do, they kill me. Daniel's voice breaks. They gave me photos, he says. They're trying to force me. Lynn flinches. Photos. Her body tenses like the word is a knife. Show me, she whispers. Daniel hesitates. Then he slides the folder toward her. Lynn's hands tremble as she opens it. She stares at each photo, breathing faster. Then she reaches the one with the American soldier from Daniel's unit. Her face goes still. Something changes in her eyes. Daniel notices instantly. "You recognize him," Daniel whispers. Lynn swallows hard. "Yes," she admits. Daniel's stomach twists. "Who is he?" Daniel asks. Lynn's voice is barely audible. "He is not like the others," she whispers. "He speaks Vietnamese." Daniel's blood runs cold. "An American soldier who speaks Vietnamese," Daniel repeats slowly. Lynn nods. "I have seen him," she says. "Not here, outside, near the supply gate. He watches." Daniel's mind races. "Do you know his name?" Daniel asks. Lynn hesitates. Then she whispers it. "Mark Riggins." Daniel's chest tightens. Riggins, of course, the friendly one, the one who always joked, the one who always volunteered for extra shifts. Daniel feels sick. "You think he planted the paper," Daniel whispers. Lynn looks at him with fear. "I think," she whispers, "he wants someone to blame, so he can hide." Daniel's heart pounds. "Hide what?" he asks. Lynn's lips tremble. "I don't know," she says. "But my cousin once said, there are Americans who sell things, weapons, information. They pretend they fight, but they trade." Daniel stares at her. "Smuggling," Daniel whispers. Lynn nods slightly. "And if they use me," she whispers, "then nobody looks at them." Daniel's hands shake. "So Hale isn't hunting the Viet Cong," he murmurs. "He's protecting a network, or using it." Lynn looks at him, terrified. "Daniel," she whispers, "you must let me go." Daniel's eyes burn. "No," he says. "Yes," Lynn insists, voice breaking. "You must. They will ruin you." Daniel clenches his jaw. "Lynn," he says, "I'm already ruined. I'm just choosing what kind of ruined." Lynn's tears spill. "Why do you do this?" she sobs. Daniel's voice shakes. "Because you're the first person who made me feel like I wasn't just my father's project," he says. "Because you looked at me when I was helpless and didn't see a symbol." He pauses. "And because," he whispers, "I think I'm falling in love with you." Lynn freezes. Her breath catches. For a second, she looks like she might step back, like the words are too dangerous. Then she leans forward, trembling, and presses her forehead gently against his. Just for a moment. No kiss, no drama. Just contact. A quiet vow. "I cannot love you," she whispers. Daniel's heart shatters. "Why?" he asks, voice breaking. Lynn's eyes close. "Because love is a promise," she whispers. "And I cannot promise I will live." Daniel swallows hard. "Then don't promise forever," he whispers. "Promise right now." Lynn opens her eyes. They stare at each other, breathing the same air like it might be the last time. Then Lynn whispers something that changes everything. "There is a way," she says. Daniel's eyes widen. "A way to what?" he asks. "A way to survive," she whispers. "But it is ugly." Daniel's pulse spikes. "Tell me," he says. Lynn glances at the door. Then she leans in, voice barely audible. "My cousin," she whispers, "knows a tunnel near the river. Old, used long ago, sometimes used now. If we reach it, we can disappear." Daniel's heart pounds. "Disappear where?" he asks. Lynn's eyes shine with fear. "Into the jungle," she whispers, "away from this place." Daniel stares at her. He's a soldier. She's a Vietnamese cleaner. And she's suggesting they run into the jungle together. It's insane. It's suicide. And yet, Daniel feels something in him rise. Not fear. Purpose. "When?" he asks. Lynn's voice trembles. "Tonight," she whispers, "before you give statement, before they move me again." Daniel swallows. "I can't walk," he says. Lynn's eyes burn with determination. "Then I will carry your hope," she whispers, "and we will find someone who helps." Daniel's mind races. Who could help? A nurse? A medic? Someone who hates Hale? Someone brave enough to betray orders? Then Daniel remembers. A medic named Tom Reyes quiet, decent, always looking away when Hale enters. Tom once whispered, "I'm sorry," and when Lynn was taken. Daniel looks at Lynn. "I know someone," he says. Lynn's eyes widen. "Can you trust him?" she asks. Daniel swallows hard. "I don't know," he admits. "But I know I can't trust Hale." Lynn nods, trembling. "Then we do it," she whispers. Footsteps outside. Lynn stiffens. Daniel's heart slams. She pulls back instantly, wiping her face. The door opens slightly. A nurse peeks in. "Carter," she says, nervous. "You have another call." Daniel's stomach drops. He knows who it is. His father, or Shaw, or both. He looks at Lynn. She looks back, terrified. Daniel takes a slow breath. "Tell them I'll call back," he says firmly. The nurse hesitates. "They said it's urgent." Daniel's eyes narrow. "Then tell them," Daniel says, voice cold. "I'm bleeding, and urgency is what put me here." The nurse swallows and leaves. The door closes. Silence. Lynn's eyes shimmer. "If we do this," she whispers, "you may never go home." Daniel's voice is steady. "If I don't do this," he replies, "you'll never have a chance to live." Lynn stares at him. Then she nods, small, shaking. "Tonight," she whispers. Daniel squeezes her hand. "Tonight," he repeats. Later, near midnight, Daniel waits. Every sound in the hallway feels like a gun cocking. The lights outside dim. The hospital quiets. Then the door opens. Tom Reyes slips inside. He looks around quickly. His eyes land on Lynn. His face tightens. "Carter," Tom whispers. "What are you doing?" Daniel's voice is low. "Tom," he says, "I need help." Tom's gaze flicks to Lynn again. "I can't," Tom whispers. "If Hale finds out—" "He will," Daniel interrupts. "No matter what, he's setting me up." Tom freezes. "What?" he whispers. Daniel slides the folder toward him. Tom opens it, scanning the photos. His expression changes. Shock, disgust, fear. "That's Riggins?" Tom whispers. "What the hell?" Daniel leans forward slightly, pain flaring. "Hale is using Lynn as cover," Daniel says. "And Shaw's here. Political pressure. They want me to sign a statement blaming her." Tom's face goes pale. "That's insane," he whispers. Daniel's eyes burn. "It's real," he says. "And if I don't, they'll disappear her." Tom looks at Lynn. Lynn meets his eyes, trembling. Tom swallows. "What do you want?" he asks. Daniel's voice drops. "I want you to get me out of this bed," he whispers. "And I want you to get her out of this hospital." Tom's hands shake. "That's treason," he whispers. Daniel stares at him. "No," he replies. "It's humanity." Tom's jaw clenches. He looks down. For a long moment he says nothing. Then he whispers something that makes Daniel's heart stop. "Hale isn't just protecting a story," Tom says. "He's protecting a shipment." Daniel freezes. "A shipment?" he asks. Tom nods, eyes haunted. "Medical supplies," Tom whispers. "Morphine, antibiotics, bandages. Stuff that disappears. And Riggins, he's involved." Daniel's blood runs cold. "So Lynn was a scapegoat," Daniel whispers. Tom nods. "They need someone local to blame," he says. "So nobody asks why supplies vanish." Daniel's hands clench. "Will you help us?" Daniel asks. Tom looks at Lynn, then at Daniel. His eyes fill with conflict. Then he whispers, "Yes." Daniel exhales, almost collapsing with relief. Tom moves fast. He checks the hallway. Then he pulls a wheelchair closer. "Can you sit?" Tom whispers. Daniel nods, gritting his teeth. Lynn moves to Daniel's side, helping gently, carefully. Daniel's body screams with pain as he shifts. His ribs feel like broken glass. His lungs burn. But he doesn't stop. He forces himself upright. Tom helps him into the chair. Daniel clutches Lynn's hand for 1 second, just one. Then they move, slowly, quietly, down the corridor. Every corner feels like death. Tom leads them toward a back stairwell. They reach the door, and it swings open. Richard Hale stands there, waiting, smiling, like he knew all along. "Well," Hale says softly. This is disappointing. Tom freezes. Lynn's breath catches. Daniel's heart slams. Hale's eyes lock onto Daniel. You really thought, Hale whispers, you could run? Daniel's voice shakes but holds. You set this up, Daniel says. Hale smiles wider. Of course, he replies. I needed to know who was loyal. His gaze flicks to Tom. Thank you for volunteering. Tom's face goes white. Hale steps closer. Then he looks at Lynn. And you, Hale murmurs. You almost made it interesting. Lynn trembles. Daniel's hands clench on the wheelchair arms. Hale's voice turns colder. Take them, he orders calmly. 2 soldiers appear from the shadows, guns ready. Daniel's breath becomes ragged. Lynn looks at him, pure terror. Daniel's mind races. He can't fight. He can't run. And in that instant, he realizes the truth. This was never about whether Hale suspected. Hale wanted them to try, because the moment they ran, Hale could label them guilty, forever. Hale leans in close to Daniel, voice like ice. Now, Hale whispers, you will sign the statement, and she will disappear quietly, and you will go home as a hero. Daniel's eyes burn with rage. Hale smiles. Or, he adds softly, you don't sign, and she dies loudly, and you go home in a box. Daniel looks at Lynn. She is shaking. But her eyes hold something else now. Resolve. Like she has decided something. She steps forward suddenly. Hale's eyebrow lifts. What are you doing? He asks. Lynn's voice trembles, but she speaks clearly. I will confess, she says. Daniel's heart stops. No, Daniel gasps. Hale's smile widens, pleased. That's better, he murmurs. Lynn looks at Daniel. Her eyes fill with tears, and she whispers in Vietnamese, fast, urgent. Daniel doesn't understand the words, but he understands the meaning in her face. Forgive me. Then she turns to Hale and says in English, but not to you. Hale's smile falters. What? He snaps. Lynn lifts her chin. You want story? She says, voice shaking. Here is story. Hale steps forward, anger flashing. Enough, he growls. But Lynn keeps speaking. My cousin, she says. He came for medicine, not paper, not coordinates. She points tremblingly at Hale. Paper was yours. Hale's eyes narrow. Shut up, he hisses. Lynn's voice rises desperate. You steal medicine, she cries. You make people die, then blame us. Tom flinches. The soldiers hesitate, just for a second, confused. Hale's face hardens, and Daniel realizes Lynn is doing something brave and suicidal. She's creating noise. She's creating witnesses. So, Hale can't disappear her quietly. Daniel's voice breaks. Lynn, stop! She turns to him, tears streaming. Daniel, she whispers, you must live. Hale lunges forward. Grab her, he snarls. The soldiers move. Daniel's heart pounds violently. And then a voice booms from the hallway. What is going on here? A senior officer, hospital command, storms into the stairwell drawn by the shouting. More staff follow, nurses, medics, eyes wide, witnesses. Hale freezes for half a second. Then his politician's smile returns instantly. Sir, Hale says smoothly, we have a security incident. A local worker attempted to extract a wounded soldier. The senior officer glares. Is that true? He demands. All eyes turn to Daniel. Daniel's lungs burn. His ribs scream, but he forces himself to speak. No, Daniel says, voice hoarse but clear. That's not true. Hale's smile tightens. Daniel looks at the senior officer. They're forcing me to sign a statement, Daniel says. They planted evidence. They're using her as a scapegoat. The stairwell goes silent. Hale's eyes flash with warning. Daniel, Hale says softly, you're confused. Daniel's voice hardens. I'm not confused, he says. I'm terrified, and I'm telling the truth. The senior officer's face tightens. Hale takes a careful breath, adjusting his posture. This soldier is under heavy medication, Hale says calmly. He's delirious. Daniel's eyes burn. I want a lawyer, Daniel says suddenly. I want an official inquiry, and I want my father informed that his advisor is here threatening me. A ripple runs through the staff. Shaw's presence is not supposed to be visible. Hale's eyes narrow. The senior officer looks stunned. Shaw is here? He asks. Hale's jaw tightens. Daniel feels the moment shift. Not victory, but possibility. Hale steps closer, voice low, venom hidden under politeness. You're making a mistake, Hale murmurs. Daniel meets his gaze. No, Daniel whispers back. You did. Hale's eyes darken. Then he smiles again. Fine, Hale says loudly. If you want an inquiry, we'll do it the official way. He turns to the senior officer. Sir, Hale says smoothly, for security reasons, the local worker must be detained immediately. She is a risk. The senior officer hesitates. Lynn trembles. Daniel's heart drops. Because Hale is still in control of procedure, still in control of labels. Hale looks at Lynn, smiling like a man who already won. Take her, he orders quietly. The soldiers grab Lynn. She gasps. Daniel's breath catches. No! Daniel shouts, trying to rise from the chair, pain ripping through him. Lynn looks back at him, tears streaming. Daniel! She cries, and Daniel sees it in her eyes. This is the last time. Unless he does something impossible. He looks at the senior officer, desperate. She has no one, Daniel pleads. She'll disappear. The senior officer's jaw clenches, conflicted. Then Hale leans in with one final quiet dagger. Sign the statement, Hale whispers to Daniel, and she walks. Daniel freezes. Hale smiles. The trap tightens again, and Daniel realizes the horrible truth. Even with witnesses, Hale can still win because he controls the narrative. Unless Daniel sacrifices something bigger, unless Daniel destroys the one person Hale thinks he will protect, his father. Daniel's hands shake so badly the wheelchair creaks. Lynn is held between two soldiers. Richard Hale stands close enough that Daniel can smell his cologne. Clean, expensive, wrong for a stairwell that smells like disinfectant and fear. Sign, Hale whispers, voice smooth as velvet, and she walks. Daniel looks at Lynn. Her face is wet with tears, but her eyes are steady now, almost calm, like she has already accepted the outcome, and that breaks him more than any threat. Daniel turns his head slightly toward the senior officer. Sir, Daniel says, voice hoarse. I need one phone call. The officer frowns. Now. Daniel's eyes burn. Now. Hale smiles faintly. Of course, he murmurs. Call your father. Tell him you've calmed down. Tell him you'll cooperate. Daniel's jaw tightens. He looks at Hale with something colder than hatred. Not to cooperate, Daniel whispers. To confess. Hale's smile flickers. Just a fraction. What? Hale asks, too quiet. Daniel looks at the nurse nearest the doorway. Bring the phone, he says. The nurse hesitates, eyes wide. The senior officer nods sharply. Do it. Hale's eyes narrow in warning, but he doesn't stop it because he believes Daniel will break. The phone arrives. Daniel takes the receiver in his left hand. He breathes, slow and painful. Then he says, loud enough for everyone in the stairwell to hear, call Congressman Carter, now. The nurse dials. Seconds feel like years. A click. A voice on the line, polished, calm. Daniel, his father says. Daniel closes his eyes for half a second. Then he opens them and stares straight at Richard Hale. Dad, Daniel says clearly, Richard Hale is here. A pause. What? Congressman Carter asks, sharp. Daniel doesn't blink. He's threatening a Vietnamese hospital worker, Daniel continues. He brought Elliot Shaw into a military hospital, and they're forcing me to sign a statement blaming an innocent woman to protect their operation. The stairwell freezes. Hale's face goes still. Shaw isn't here now, but his name hangs in the air like a bomb. His father's voice changes instantly, tight, controlled. Daniel, his father says, you're medicated. You don't understand. I understand perfectly, Daniel interrupts, voice trembling with fury. You sent them. Silence. Then his father's tone sharpens. You're embarrassing yourself, Congressman Carter says coldly. You're embarrassing me. Daniel's hands shake. Good, Daniel says softly, because embarrassment is the least you deserve. Hale's eyes flash, and he steps forward, voice low. Carter, he murmurs, hang up. Daniel ignores him. Dad, Daniel says louder, if you care about your image so much, here's the truth. You knew supplies were disappearing. You knew Hale's results were funded by theft. You knew, and you covered it because it helped your vote. The nurse gasps. Tom Reyes goes pale. The senior officer's eyes widen. Hale's smile is gone now, replaced by something dangerous. Daniel, Congressman Carter snaps into the phone. Stop talking. Daniel's eyes fill with tears, not of weakness, but of release. I'm done being your symbol, Daniel says. I'm done being your trophy. I'm done being the son you can point to when cameras are rolling. He swallows hard. And I'm done watching you destroy people who never had a voice. Hale grabs the receiver suddenly. Daniel yanks it back, pain shooting through his ribs. Hale's face hardens. Take him, Hale orders through clenched teeth. The soldiers shift, hesitating now. Because command is watching, witnesses are everywhere. Procedure matters when eyes are on you. The senior officer raises a hand sharply. No one touches him, he barks. Hale's eyes blaze. Sir, Hale says smoothly, recovering his tone, this man is unstable. Daniel holds the receiver close again. Dad, Daniel says quickly, if anything happens to Lynn Nguyen tonight, I want you to know this. I will tell everyone, the press, the committee, every reporter who ever praised you. His father's breathing is audible now, angry. You won't, Congressman Carter says, because you need me. Daniel's voice breaks, but his words are firm. No, Daniel whispers, you need me. He hangs up. The click echoes like a gunshot. For a moment, nobody moves. Then Hale speaks. Quiet, lethal. You just committed career suicide, Hale says. Daniel's eyes burn. Then it'll be the first honest thing I've ever done, he replies. Hale turns toward the senior officer, voice calm again. Sir, Hale says, this is becoming a spectacle. Detain the local worker, remove the soldier, we'll handle this privately. The senior officer's jaw tightens. No, he says flatly, we'll handle this officially. Hale's eyes narrow. Sir, Hale insists, you don't understand the political implications. The senior officer steps closer. I understand chain of command, he says, and right now you are not it. Hale's smile returns, thin. You're making a mistake, Hale murmurs. The senior officer doesn't blink. Escort Captain Hale out, he orders to a guard. Hale's head snaps slightly. Captain, Hale repeats as if amused. That's generous. The guard steps forward. Hale's gaze locks on Daniel one last time, and the look in his eyes is not defeat. It's promise. This isn't over. Hale turns slowly and walks away, escorted. But Daniel doesn't relax, because he knows something. A man like Hale doesn't lose cleanly. He retaliates. The senior officer turns to Lynn. She stands trembling, held by soldiers who suddenly look uncertain. What's your name? The officer asks. Lynn swallows. Lynn Nguyen. Do you understand the accusations against you? He asks. Lynn's voice shakes. They say I am a spy. The officer studies her. And are you? Lynn's eyes fill with tears. I cleaned floors, she whispers. I carried water. I washed blood. Her voice cracks. I did not choose this. Daniel's heart aches. The officer nods slowly. Release her, he orders. The soldiers hesitate. Then they let go. Lynn staggers forward, almost collapsing. Daniel reaches out instinctively. She grips his hand, shaking. The senior officer looks at Tom Reyes. Medic, he says sharply, you will file a report tonight. Tom nods, pale. Yes, sir. The officer looks back at Daniel. And you, he says, you will be transferred to a secure facility for medical recovery and evaluation. Daniel's stomach drops. "Transferred where?" he asks. The officer's eyes soften slightly. "Somewhere Hale can't reach you easily," he says, "and somewhere you'll be protected because you just made powerful enemies." Daniel swallows hard. "And Lynn?" he asks. The officer hesitates. "That's complicated," he admits. Daniel's heart clenches. Complicated means danger. Complicated means paperwork. Complicated means time. And time is what Hale uses to destroy people. Daniel looks at Lynn. She's trembling, eyes wide with fear. She whispers, "Daniel?" Daniel squeezes her hand. "I'm not letting you disappear," he whispers back. The officer sighs, then nods to a nurse. "Get her into protective custody within hospital grounds," he orders. "No interrogation, no intelligence access." The nurse nods quickly. Lynn's lips part, terrified. "Protective custody?" she whispers. Daniel swallows. "It means you stay alive," he says softly. Lynn's eyes fill with tears. "I don't want to be a prisoner," she whispers. Daniel's voice breaks. "I know," he whispers. "But right now, alive is the first victory." Lynn nods shakily. The nurse steps forward gently. "Come," she says quietly to Lynn. Lynn doesn't move. She looks at Daniel like she's trying to memorize him. Daniel's chest tightens. "Go," he whispers. "Please, do what she says." Lynn's lips tremble. Then she leans closer, careful, gentle, and presses her forehead against his again. A silent goodbye, a silent promise. Then she turns and follows the nurse away. Daniel watches her disappear down the hallway, and for the first time since the war began, he feels something like hope and grief mixed together so tightly it nearly crushes him. 2 days later, Daniel is transferred, a military transport plane, a stretcher, a medic monitoring his breathing. He stares at the ceiling of the aircraft, hearing the roar of engines. He thinks about Lynn. Is she safe? Is protective custody a real protection or a delay? He clenches his jaw. Tom Reyes rides with him briefly, leaning in. "Carter," Tom whispers. "I filed the report. I named Hale. I named Riggins. I named the missing supplies." Daniel's heart pounds. "And Lynn?" Daniel whispers. Tom's eyes are haunted. "She's still at the hospital," Tom says, "in a locked wing, but she's alive." Daniel exhales, shaky. "Riggins?" he asks. Tom's jaw tightens. "He vanished," he whispers. "Which tells you everything?" Daniel closes his eyes. Hale is still moving pieces. Daniel knows that. And Daniel knows something else. If he ever wants Lynn free, he will have to fight a war that doesn't use guns. It uses reputations, paperwork, power, and lies. Weeks pass. Daniel recovers in a secure military facility. He learns to sit upright without fainting. He breathes without tasting blood. But his mind doesn't heal because his heart is still in that hospital hallway. One night, a new officer visits him. A woman, crisp uniform, serious eyes. She places a folder on his table. "I'm Major Evelyn Ross," she says. "Internal oversight." Daniel's breath catches. Oversight. The words sound like a door opening. "What do you want?" Daniel asks. Major Ross looks at him calmly. "I want the truth," she says, "and I want it documented." Daniel's hands shake. "You believe me?" he whispers. Ross nods. "We have corroboration," she says, "from a medic named Tom Reyes, from hospital staff, from missing inventory," her gaze sharpens, "and from intercepted communications that suggest Hale ran an unauthorized operation." Daniel's heart pounds. "Then Lynn," he begins. Ross holds up a hand. "Lynn Nguyen is alive," she says, "but she is not safe." Daniel's stomach drops. "What do you mean?" he asks. Ross leans in slightly. "Hale is being recalled," she says, "but men like him don't disappear quietly." Her voice lowers. "There are people who would rather erase witnesses than face consequences." Daniel's chest tightens. "Help her," he pleads. "Please." Major Ross studies him. "Why her?" she asks. Daniel's throat tightens. Because she's the only reason I didn't become my father, he whispers. Because she's the only person who stayed when I was nothing but blood and pain. His voice breaks. Because she deserves a life. Ross looks at him for a long moment, then she exhales. There may be a way, she says. Daniel's heart stops. A way? He whispers. Ross nods. Humanitarian relocation, she says. Protected identity, sponsored by oversight funds. She pauses. But you will be part of the record. Public. Official. Daniel swallows, meaning his father will know. Meaning the press may know. Meaning Daniel will lose any remaining shield his name gives him. He doesn't hesitate. Do it, Daniel says. Ross's eyes soften slightly. Then, I need a statement, she says. Not about Lynn as a suspect. About Lynn as a witness, Daniel nods. I'll sign anything, he says. Ross shakes her head. Not anything, she replies. Only the truth. Daniel's voice is steady. Then you'll have it. Months later. The war doesn't end in a single day. Neither does a life after it. But one morning, Daniel is called into a quiet office. Major Ross is there again. She hands him a document. Approved, she says simply. Daniel stares at the paper, heartbeat thunderous. Where is she, he asks, barely breathing. Ross looks at him. She's on a civilian flight, she says. She'll land in a secure location. She pauses, and after processing, she can choose where to go next. Daniel's eyes fill with tears. She's free, he whispers. Ross nods. Freedom has a cost, she says. You paid yours. Daniel swallows hard. My father? He asks. Ross's expression tightens. Your father is facing inquiry, she says. His advisor resigned. Hale is under investigation. She studies Daniel. You're not untouchable anymore. Daniel laughs softly through tears. Good, he whispers. I never wanted to be. A week later, Daniel stands in a small airport terminal, not in uniform, not on a stage, just a young man with a cane, still healing. He watches people pass, heart pounding like it did in that stairwell. Then he sees her. Lynn. In simple clothes, hair tied back, carrying a small bag. She looks thinner, but her eyes are alive. She stops when she sees him, like she can't believe he's real. Daniel takes one step forward. Pain shoots up his side. He doesn't care. Lynn, he whispers. Lynn's hand rises to her mouth. Her eyes fill with tears. Daniel, she whispers. They stand there, frozen, as if one wrong movement will shatter the moment. Then Lynn walks toward him, trembling. Daniel opens his arms carefully, and she steps into them. This time, it's not a forehead touch. It's a real embrace, tight, shaking, desperate, a hold that says, we survived. Lynn pulls back slightly, staring at him. You came, she whispers. Daniel nods, tears falling. I promised right now, he says. Lynn's lips tremble into the smallest smile. And now, she whispers. Daniel swallows. Now we learn how to live, he says softly. Not as symbols, not as enemies, just as people. Lynn's eyes shine. Do you still think you love me? She whispers, voice fragile. Daniel lets out a broken laugh. I think, he whispers, I loved you the moment you reminded me my name. Lynn's breath catches. She steps closer. And I think, she whispers, I loved you when you refused to make me disappear. Daniel's chest tightens. He gently cups her cheek, careful, respectful, like he's afraid she'll vanish. You're safe, he whispers. Lynn's eyes close for a moment. Then she opens them, steady. For the first time, she whispers. They stand there in the quiet hum of the airport. Not a war zone, not a hospital. Just an ordinary place where extraordinary people try to rebuild. And Daniel realizes something. Surviving the war wasn't the hardest part, but choosing humanity afterward was the bravest thing he's ever done. Before you go, if this story moved you in any way, please consider subscribing to the channel. It's free. It helps us a lot, and it keeps these stories alive. And now tell me, what score would you give this story from 0 to 10?